You have more than any generation in human history, and somehow it feels like less. About 2,500 years ago, in a kingdom in what is now Nepal, a prince walked away from everything most people spend their entire lives chasing. Not because he was forced to, not because he failed. He left because he had everything and discovered it wasn't enough. And that discovery shook him so deeply that he needed to understand why. What he found on the other side of that question became one of the most significant insights in human history, and it has almost nothing to do with religion or ritual or any of the things it usually gets associated with. His name was Siddhartha Gautama, and the problem he was trying to solve was one you recognize intimately. His world was full of people who believed the solution to suffering was acquisition. More wealth, more pleasure, more comfort, more status. The logic was obvious. If having nothing hurts, then having more must hurt less. Kings built larger palaces. Merchants accumulated more land. Even the ascetics of his day, the monks who rejected wealth entirely, were still caught in the same trap from the opposite direction, starving themselves and sleeping on stone floors as if suffering now could buy peace later. Everyone was chasing something. Everyone was certain the next thing would be the thing that finally settled the restlessness inside them. You know this pattern. You got the grade, the job, the relationship, the apartment, and there was happiness, genuine happiness, for a while. Then a quiet discomfort crept back in. So you started looking for the next thing. Not because you were ungrateful, just because the feeling faded, and fading feelings feel like a problem to be solved. So what did he see that everyone else was missing? Siddhartha had grown up inside a palace, deliberately shielded by his father from any exposure to suffering. The king had received a prophecy that his son would either become a great ruler or a great spiritual teacher, and he was determined to prevent the second option by making the first option irresistible. Beautiful gardens, unlimited food, entertainment, servants, every comfort imaginable. It didn't work. Not because the palace wasn't pleasant. It was. But Siddhartha kept sensing something his father couldn't filter out. A kind of background hum of dissatisfaction that no amount of pleasure could quite quiet. He didn't have a name for it yet. Just a feeling that something essential was missing from all the abundance surrounding him. Then, on separate occasions, he saw three things his whole life had been arranged to hide: an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and then a fourth thing, a wandering monk who had nothing and appeared completely at peace. That last image stopped him cold. The monk carried no wealth. He had no palace, no servants, no guarantee of food. By every measure Siddhartha had been raised to value, this man had lost. And yet there was something in his face, in the way he moved, that Siddhartha had never seen in any of the wealthy, comfortable, successful people around him. Stillness. Not the stillness of a man who had given up. The stillness of a man who had found something. Siddhartha left the palace that night. He spent years trying extreme asceticism, nearly starving himself to death, searching for peace through deprivation the same way others searched for it through indulgence. Neither worked. And one afternoon, sitting beneath a tree after accepting a simple bowl of rice from a young woman, something in him stopped fighting. He sat, he observed, not the world outside but the movement of his own mind. And this is what he found. The restlessness was never about what he had or didn't have. It was a feature of the grasping itself, the mind that is always reaching for the next thing, the next sensation, the next achievement, the next version of circumstances that will finally produce lasting peace. That mind will never be still, not because the things it reaches for are bad, but because the reaching is the problem. He called this tanha, usually translated as craving or thirst. The perpetual insistence that things be different from what they currently are. The refusal to let this moment be enough. Read that last part again slowly. He wasn't saying stop wanting things. He wasn't saying ambition is evil or comfort is worthless. He was pointing at something much more specific. The quality of desperate grasping. The feeling that you cannot be okay until the circumstances change. That is the source of suffering, not the circumstances themselves. A person can work toward something and remain internally free. A person can also sit completely still and be tormented. The external situation is almost beside the point. What matters is the relationship between your mind and the present moment. Now bring this into your actual week. You probably have a version of the palace problem right now. Something you're waiting for before you allow yourself to feel settled. The promotion comes through, then you can relax. The relationship stabilizes, then you can stop worrying. The savings account hits a certain number, the project gets approved, the person apologizes, the situation resolves, and then you can breathe. Notice what you're doing there. You're placing your peace outside yourself, on the far side of a condition that may or may not arrive, and if it does arrive, will almost certainly generate a new condition before the relief even settles. The Buddha's observation was that this is not a personal failing. It's the default operating mode of an untrained mind. The mind is built to scan for problems and reach for solutions. That capacity saved the lives of our ancestors. But it has a side effect in a modern world of infinite options. It never turns off. There is always another problem to solve, another level to reach, another version of things that would be slightly better than this. The practice he pointed toward was radical in its simplicity. Not acquiring stillness as if it were another possession, recognizing that stillness is already underneath the noise when you stop adding to it. Here's something specific to try. Not as a spiritual exercise, just as an experiment in noticing. Sometime today, maybe after you finish watching this, sit somewhere unremarkable. Not a beautiful spot, not a special moment. Just wherever you are. And for 2 minutes, don't try to feel peaceful. Don't try to feel anything. Just notice what's actually present when you're not reaching for something different. Most people discover one of two things. Either there's more ease underneath the noise than they expected, or there's a very loud voice insisting that sitting still is wasteful, that you should be doing something, that this is a bad use of time. That voice is what the Buddha was talking about. That insistence. That inability to simply be somewhere without immediately turning it into a problem or an opportunity. You don't have to silence it. You just have to notice it. Noticing creates distance. Distance creates choice. He didn't promise that life would stop being difficult, that things wouldn't be lost, that people wouldn't leave, that bodies wouldn't age, that plans wouldn't fall apart. He was very clear that all of those things would happen. His argument was about where you locate your stability in the middle of all that motion. Wealth can be taken, health changes, circumstances shift. The one thing that cannot be taken from you is the quality of your relationship to the present moment. That is the only ground that never moves. A palace full of comfort and a mind that is always grasping produces misery. A simple moment met with full attention produces something that actually resembles peace. He left everything and found the one thing that was never actually missing. It was never somewhere else. It was always here, waiting for the reaching to stop. Subscribe if this landed. The next video goes deeper into what he actually taught about desire.